Hey everybody, Movie Reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. And this time, I saw Five Nights at Freddy's. So, a horror film directed by Emma Tammy from 2023, and it stars Josh Hutcherson, Piper Rubio, Elizabeth Lail, Mary Stuart Masterson, and Matthew Lillard. In this film, recently fired and desperate for work, a troubled young man named Mike agrees to take a position as a night security guard at an abandoned themed restaurant, Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. But he soon discovers that nothing at Freddy's is what it seems. So, what did I think of Five Nights at Freddy's? Well, I gotta say, I was actually pretty disappointed by this one. Um, as someone who, again, I'm not a big horror game person, but I can understand the love that a lot of people have for the Five Nights at Freddy's game series. And again, I haven't like beaten all of the games. I know that there's probably some people that'll say, "Oh, you have to beat the first four games all the way to understand the movie." But a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie just doesn't feel like Five Nights at Freddy's. Um, but I'll get into my deeper thoughts in a second. Let me get to the cast. Josh Hutcherson plays Mike Schmidt. He is the whoop, he is the protagonist of the film. He's been hired as a security guard for Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, an old rundown establishment that's out of business. I like Josh Hutcherson. Um, most people will know him from the Hunger Games series, as Peter Millard. I mainly know him from Bridge to Terabithia, a film from my childhood that has always just stuck in my head. He's also in Polar Express, in Zathura, just a ton of children's movies. I think he does a pretty decent job here. Um, there's not really a ton to this character though, and I mean the most you really learn about him is that he has a sister, and I'll get to the sister subplot, but I continue with this. Piper Rubio plays Abby. This is Mike's little sister. As far as I remember, and if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. Mike doesn't have a sister in the games. As far as I know, Mike never had a sister. Um, again, if I'm wrong, correct me. Be civil. Piper Rubio is not that good in this. Checking out her stuff, she's only been in one other movie. Um, I can tell or it makes sense. She's not that good in the film. She has a couple okay funny moments, but overall her acting leaves a lot to be desired whenever she's in trouble. I don't believe it. It just doesn't work. And I think either she's just not a good actress or this director doesn't work well with children. There are plenty of other great child actors you could have picked, but um yeah. Elizabeth Lail plays Vanessa. Uh a cop who is apparently the I mean she has a strange connection to the events in the film. Um, she Elizabeth Lell does an okay job. Um, I know her from the movie or excuse me, the Netflix show You. She was in the first season or two. Um, I think here she's a bit miscast as this cop. I don't really buy her as a cop. She's a bit too pretty to play a cop, but or she just doesn't have the voice to play a cop either. But yeah. Mary Stuart Masterson plays Aunt Jane. Uh She gets to play a real bitch here. I like Mary Stuart Masterson. She pops up in a lot of films, Fried Green Tomatoes, Stepford Wives, Daniel Isn't Real, Some Kind of Wonderful Skin, At Close Range, Postman. Um, she does play a very one-note character here. Um, she's the bitchy aunt that wants to take the kid from that wants to take Mike's sister away from him. She plays the role well, I guess. Not a ton to her character though. And Matthew Lillard plays Steve Raglan. He's a career uh he's one of those people that can't find jobs go to find jobs. So, um he's okay. That's the most I can say about him. Um but yeah, this film I ended up watching this with my mom cuz she thought the concept was interesting. Um and I did too. Again, I think this is a an idea of a film ripe for, being a film. And I went into this having already seen another film titled Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage. That is a much better Five Nights at Freddy's movie than this, and it has nothing to do with Five Nights at Freddy's. It's just an unrelated horror film that was, I guess, if you want to say it this way, if you want to take away all of its thunder, it was cashing in on the Five Nights at Freddy's movie and when it was supposed to come out. But I won't say that because it's actually a good movie. Willy's Wonderland gives you exactly what you want. It's actually pretty creepy at times. There's actual horror. This film is not scary. Now, one of my reasonings behind that would have to be that it's PG-13. The fact that this film is PG-13 means that they can't go too far. They can't have the children get hurt. And a lot of the tension just isn't there for me. Because, again, when you do something PG-13, and I understand they probably did it PG-13 so that the kids who've played the newest games can watch it. I understand. But here's the thing kids can't go to the theaters by themselves anyway. So I don't really see why they made this PG-13 in the first place cuz if you're going to a PG-13 movie, most likely you're coming with your parents anyway. So I don't really see the reasoning for it to be PG-13 other than for them to make more money off of this. Blumhouse already would have made a shit ton of money off of this movie even if it wasn't R-rated. Even if it was R-rated because Blumhouse is a huge company. They make shit tons of money on every movie they put out for the most part. This movie has made over 5 times its budget in 2 days. Two. If this film was R, I bet you it would have at least made 3 times its budget by now. But no, this is probably getting a sequel. I'm not really looking forward to it unless they decide to make it R and actually go closer to the game's story. Because as far as I know, now I'm not an expert. Correct me if I'm wrong. But the whole thing about Mike seeing his brother like taken away in a car by a random person while he's at a camp is not in the first game. The first game doesn't really have any lore. Now, what I mean by lore, one of the biggest things about Five Nights at Freddy's is that it kept packing on lore the further into the games you got. In the second game, there were certain little bits in between the nights which were kind of like Atari type or yeah, that type of graphics. And you'd like control a character and go through these different things, and you'd understand the lore through these things. There were also secret stages in games like Five Nights at Freddy's 3, where you'd tap on certain arcade machines in the that you could see in the cameras, and then you could play like an arcade game and then get a bit more of the story there. This happens in a lot of the games. My understanding was that this film was going to be an adaptation of the first game. Now, again, you don't get to learn much about Mike in the first game. I understand they want to add more story, but there is some really unnecessary shit in this movie. The thing with the sister, the aunt wants to take Mike's sister away because she thinks he is an unfit parent or something, and it this just all the only reason this plot is in here is because later she has like these people that one of them is like babysitting for them go into the place that he's working at, and in order to make him have to give over the kid, apparently they're gonna destroy the the pizzeria. But then I mean, I'm doing this as a spoiler review anyway. I can't talk about this movie without talking about spoilers. Um, but uh, they start like destroying shit, and here's the thing: he is a night watchman. He's there from 12 to 6 in the morning, just like in the games. Um, but they are going in there afterwards, like after he's already left, and destroying the place. There's cameras there. They can see that they're destroying the shit, and they can see their faces and everything, and they can see that Mike is gone. The security cameras have the time and the date on them. So this is a really fucking stupid plan, and nothing really comes of it. Like she never is like, "Oh, I wonder where they went." And it does feel like this was just added in to add in kills, which this film didn't need a ton of kills. All you needed was to build up a creepy atmosphere. You needed a few certain things. You needed a likable protagonist that you didn't want to die. You needed the animatronics to be scary, which in this film I'll explain my thoughts on them. You needed a creepy atmosphere, which at small parts of this film, very small parts, there is a kind of creepy atmosphere. And you needed a satisfying conclusion to the movie. First one, Mike. In this film, Mike is just kind of he's a brother that has uh PTSD about a camping trip. Again, I don't think this is any part of the lore. Maybe it is in the books. I didn't read the books. I only played the first couple games a bit, and I watched people play the games on YouTube, which apparently that's all you need to understand the backstory. If you watch this movie without playing the games, you probably won't think anything's wrong. Many parts of this felt wrong to me. Um, but Mike is just kind of a not that interesting character. And it's not that I didn't root for him, it's just that he doesn't really do anything like you do in the game. In the games, you had, at least in the first game, which this pizzeria is based off of the layout in the first game, and I'll give this film one big thing. It recreates the original setting very well. Very well. And in the camera angles and in the design of the building and how the film looks when it's in these segments is really top notch. That is one of the big things I can give this film. It's not enough to elevate that this film is really lazy in many parts because Mike doesn't do shit for most of the movie. Most of the movie is him listening to a nature tape to go back to the moment where his brother was killed to find, or where his brother was abducted in order to find out who took him. In the games, you press these buttons in order to close the doors or turn on the light to see if there's an animatronic in the hallway. You look on the cameras to see where they are, and well, I mean, in the second game, you had to wind up the music box, but Marionette isn't there. This film is specifically dealing with only the four animatronics: Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy. Foxy doesn't, well, I mean, none of them get to really do that much. Um, they're not that threatening. There were small moments that I thought were okay. But for the most part, this is not a scary movie. It's not, and I didn't even really find it that entertaining. I was laughing at a lot of the moments that were supposed to be creepy because another thing I can give to this movie, yes, because of the trailer, I thought that the animatronics were gonna look more CGI, CGI made over. But for the most part, to the film's credit, they look all right. There is still something off about the texture of the robots or the animatronics, but still, I can give them credit there. But in the games, you were constantly in this rush of adrenaline to keep to keep the animatronics from getting to you. That was the entire point, was to make it out alive. For most of this movie and when Mike is in the restaurant, he ain't doing shit. He's sitting in his chair, asleep, and for the most part in these weird dream sequences where the souls of the children that are in the animatronics are talking to him and then running away and all this other shit. And at one point, they try to do the symbolism of the kids come up to him and like slash him and shit. And it's supposed to be the animatronics like picking him up and like placing him in the thing to turn him into to turn him into an animatronic. And it just really feels that felt kind of pretentious and it didn't feel earned. The symbolism, the imagery that they try to go for there. I understood immediately what they were going for because one of the kids is wearing bunny ears, one of the kids is wearing bear mask or whatever, and it's very obvious what they're doing. But I think this film thinks it's super smart when it really isn't, and almost nothing happens with the animatronics. Now, my guess is that they tried to use the animatronics as little as possible in order to save budget. This film is not super high budget. It's $20 million, which is on the higher end for Blumhouse films because most Blumhouse films are around 5 to 10 million. This is a Universal Blumhouse co-production, which is the same thing as when they did Invisible Man, which I love Invisible Man. If you want an actually good horror movie, watch Invisible Man. The Hunt, which was a fun action thriller comedy satire, which I actually had a lot of fun with. Those two movies also came from the Universal Blumhouse thing, and those are way better than this. This film, again, for the most part, this film looks well made. It looks it's well put together. There was no CGI that really jumped out at me, but another thing that I think they really fucked up with was how the animatronics behave. Now, the only times you really see them turn evil is near the first third of the film where the people come in and try to like destroy the place and then they kill them. And near the end when randomly all hell breaks loose. Now, if you wanted to go this route of, oh, the animatronics get more violent or more evil slowly as the nights go on, that could have been kind of interesting. Like at first, it's like, oh, they're friendly, that kind of thing. It's next night, they're a little bit more agitated, but they're trying to be friendly. Like as if they're the children inside of the animatronics with their souls or their bodies are losing control and they can't help themselves. That would be more interesting. What they do here, there are entire multiple nights of these 5 nights, at least like 2 or 3, where The characters interact with the animatronics and they don't try to come to the office at all. If anything, they try to be friendly, which is odd because if anybody's played the first game, and I know I'm saying the first game and not the other games, this is an adaptation of the first game. It takes place in the world of the first game. None of the stuff from the second, third, fourth, whatever have happened. In that, given that, this is a bad adaptation of the first game, in my opinion. And, like, you have an entire thing of, like, Freddy and the other characters, having a making a fort, and there's like a montage sequence. Um, there's with like 80s music. Like again, I understand they're trying to do a throwback thing. Willy's Wonderland did it way fucking better. They made their own music, and it really fit the mood. Willy's Wonderland is a way better horror movie. Horror, I know it's Willy's Wonderland isn't exactly terrifying or scary or anything, but it had moments of legitimate suspense and some characters that I actually cared about that were in danger. And Nicolas Cage was a lot of fun to watch. Here, again, the animatronics don't barely do anything, and I understand they're trying to make them more. It's a weird thing. They're trying to make them more likable for some reason, and I understand they're the poor kids that are put in the robots. They're dead. That whole thing. I understand. In the world of the first game, you don't know that. I feel like this is trying too hard to put in from the different games in one movie, and it just really doesn't fit for me. It feels very just feels very haphazard. That's what I'd say. It feels like they didn't put enough attention into making an intense horror movie, but more so they wanted to be like, oh, remember this? Remember fucking remember Matt Pat? Matt Pat's in a scene? Ooh, how great. Matt Pat's in a scene. Oh, Markiplier couldn't make it because he's in the hospital because of cow blood and he's making his own movie, which that'll probably be better than this. Um, Corey Kenshin plays a cab driver. Like, okay, pay more attention to the actual fucking movie. And Vanessa. Like, I don't know. Someone can correct me. Why the fuck is Vanessa in this movie? Why is Vanessa here? She is the villain of Security Breach, is she not? And Security Breach takes place after all of the games because it's the most recent game. So why is she here? And why is she related to who turns out to be the villain? William Afton, who is Matthew Lillard. Spoiler, I said it in the title. Why why is she here? I don't remember her being if she was William Afton's daughter, cool. I got it wrong. I'm only human. But why is she in this? She was never a character until later. She was like written in to be his daughter. So it's like, if she isn't his daughter, why the fuck is she in this movie other than to spout expository dialogue? And if not, if she's not, you know, uh, if she is actually his daughter, why is she here? She wasn't in the earlier games. She's not. She just seems like an unnecessary character. And I don't even think it's like a thing of, oh, they had to shove in a female character. I don't even feel that way, but her character does feel pretty fucking useless. And what ultimately happens to her is just like she literally is useless in the grand scheme of things. So I don't know what happened. But again, let me reveal of the killer or the villain. William Afton turns out to be the career guy, played by Matthew Lillard. Matthew Lillard only had two scenes before this, like a minute long scene and then a 30-second long scene. He is barely in this fucking movie up until this reveal. And he plays it so over the top, and it he literally says, he is so unsubtle that he says, "I killed your brother, now I get to kill you. It's symmetry." And I love Matthew Lillard. I do. He is not good in this. He is either badly directed or they wrote him nothing for a villain, because this is not William Afton. William Afton was a way more terrifying villain in the games, in the backstory, where they had no dialogue because there was no voice acting for most of the lore stuff. And nothing that happens in the lore, the Bite of 87 or the Bite of 83 or whatever, or any of that stuff really happens in this. This feels, again, like a hollow shell of what a Five Nights at Freddy's movie could be. Again, if you're disappointed in this film and want to see a better animatronic based horror movie, I'd say go watch Willy's Wonderland. Nicolas Cage gives a really good performance even though he's mute. There's some pretty damn good gore effects. There's some nice fights against him and the animatronics. Yes, I said that, fights. It's a fun horror movie. And I had a legitimately fucking fun time, a legit fun time with it. This film was really fucking disappointing. I'm not mad at it or anything. This film is too little too late. Also, if they were going to make a film, they should have made it a few years ago. I understand the pandemic, whatever, I don't care. They should have made it earlier, and it should have been just the first game. Even then, I think if you wanted to make this the best way you could, you'd make it like 40, 45 minutes long, maybe not feature length, especially not an hour and 47 minutes. I don't know why this is nearly 2 hours. Maybe it's the side plot with the sister, because that's just, it goes really nowhere. And a lot of the shit with that goes nowhere. But yeah, it this film was just disappointing to me. I didn't really enjoy it. Um and yeah, I gotta say, it's just, I went into this wanting to love it. I go into all movies wanting to love them, but yeah, this just didn't work for me. But yeah, that was my review of Five Nights at Freddy's, the film. Uh, if you've seen the film, let me know what you thought in the comments. Please don't spoil anything in the comments. The If you have any films you'd like me to watch, put those in the comments as well. And movie reviewer next door, out.